Good afternoon, everyone, and I hope you had a really yummy lunch because we're about to get into dessert here with our special guest today, who is a professional crafter by her own admission. I'm joined today by Dawn Lewis, and she is a professional crafter, a podcaster, a designer, a retailer, and a former television host, and I think you'll be able to tell that by her amazing voice. Dawn, thank you for joining me today.
Hello, it's so nice to be here.
Oh, look, it's like we just love having the eclectic range of people on Obsessed With because, we're all about real conversations and, it's nice to dig a little bit deep into what's going on in the world and what's going on in your world. You just never know what people will get out of it.
Yeah, if you want eclectic, I'm your girl.
Oh, yeah, I can tell that by your bio. So let's start our conversation this afternoon on this wonderful afternoon, talking about your crafting background because you have really used that creativity to help other people turn their hobbies into a business. So when we're talking about hobbies, are you talking about things like macrame, those crafty things, or like any type of hobby into a business? And like, could I turn reading into a business?
You know what? You probably could. I reckon you could. There's all sorts of things that you can turn into a business. I help some people. I kind of accidentally fell into mentoring people a long time ago. I found someone on Etsy whose work I really enjoyed. And I'm like, I've got this idea for you. Do you mind? She's like, oh. And she makes ketubah, which is like a Jewish marriage certificate, but she does these beautiful laser cut and hand cut and intricate designs. She has stuff in the Jewish museum at the moment.
Wow.
Like her work is beautiful, and I just loved watching her take that ride. And we've been friends for years now online. We've never met in real life. So sometimes it's how to make a little bit of money on the side, and sometimes it's how to take it to a full-blown proper business.
Do you think that maybe we kind of undervalue our hobbies and those skills that we've developed, around the house, doing little jobs or doing things that have entertained us and keep us calm and cool?
Oh, yeah, 100%. I mean, just because you have a hobby doesn't mean you have to turn it into a business. But if you're looking for a business or some sort of side hustle, leaning on the things that come easily to you and that you have a lot of experience in, that's the place to start. So I have done all sorts of businesses over my life. I'm a serial entrepreneur. My sister's a serial employee and I'm the serial entrepreneur. Like, I've walked dogs, I've washed wedding cars, I've made clothes for the kids at school to wear to the school discos. Like, you name it, I've made it, I've sold it, I've marketed it, and then I got bored with it and then I moved on to something else.
It sounds like a bit of entrepreneurial thinking there. Okay, done that, accomplished it, ready for the next thing. That sounds about right, doesn't it?
It does. So, and yeah.
When you're guiding and mentoring people through that process of going from hobby to business, what do you find the biggest stumbling blocks for people are?
I think people don't ask themselves the right questions before they set it up. And some people just assume as soon as their friend goes, oh, that's really good, you should sell those. There's a word in that sentence that obligates them without them asking other questions of themselves. When someone says you should, that obligates you. You've made this, I think it's good, so you should sell it. That question you have to ask yourself is, well, am I able to do this right now? Do I want to do this right now? And am I obligated to do this right now? And if you get to the end of those three questions and the answer's been no, then no, you don't have to set it up as a business. So there are questions you have to ask yourself first. And just because the answer is no now doesn't mean it won't be yes later.
Nice. Yep, absolutely. So you are self-confessed obsessed with teaching, and it sounds like there are lots of things that you've helped people with over the years. What is it about teaching that like gets you all excited?
It energizes me. So we were listening to a podcast. The whole family was in a car, and my husband put a podcast on, which is a rare occurrence. We're usually belting out some 80s hits. And it was about extroverts and introverts. And it turns out my other family members are introverts, but I'm extrovert. But then it went on to say that your extroversion can be in specific places. It's what energizes you. And I have a friend who hates teaching, loathes it. She has to do it, but it doesn't energize her. It completely depletes her energy. But for me, I go teach a class in the morning. I'm on cloud nine for the rest of the day. I love teaching people. I've been doing it since I was a little kid. I was going to go to uni and be a school teacher, and then I babysat some kids and went 30 of these every day. No, 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 no. And when I say I'm a
No.
craft teacher, people assume I teach children. I do not. I teach grown-ups because they want to be there.
Yeah, well, that's a big difference, isn't it?
Big difference.
And I know that you are the mother of two daughters on the autism spectrum. I am the mother of one, and I sometimes look at my son and think there would be no way I would want to be in a classroom with you, because you would do my head in. You do my head in at home. Imagine having a classroom full of people like you.
It is not an easy task, and one of my daughters was in a special ed unit for 5 years of high school and ended up graduating out early because, to their credit, they did everything in their power. They invented new things. She was the cornerstone of dealing with difficult kids in special ed. And now she's home full time. So yeah, it's a challenge, and that's why I do what I do, because it's incredibly flexible around how they were as they were babies, how they were as, in primary school and high school and beyond now as adults. Everything I did had to be flexible, super flexible.
I often think how hard it must be for parents who have a job and have children who either are on the spectrum or have special needs, learning behaviours, or something that requires that ongoing interaction with the school. Because, I remember going to school. I was a little bit naughty, but my mother, I don't think she ever spoke to any of my teachers the whole time I was in high school. However, I know many of my son's teachers quite intimately.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Caring for kids with learning disabilities, with autism, with a physical disability, it in itself is a full-time job. Holding down a job is damn near impossible. You would need a very, very understanding boss. When the girls were in primary school, between two of them, I would field anywhere from 4 to 10 phone calls a week. And in high school, they were in two separate high schools. So I had to know two separate schedules, and both schools started and ended at different times. And yeah, I knew those teachers are real good.
Yeah, it's kind of like it. And I always send them a Christmas gift at the end of the year, because I
Yeah,
think, my
they earned
hat
it.
off to you. Oh, yes, absolutely. Absolutely. So this work that you did around crafting is
Mm,
really born out of that desire to be able to be there for your girls, so that you
yeah,
could field phone calls and just have a flexible way of earning money.
yeah, yeah, it's 100% correct. I used to probably the biggest handmade business I had was making handmade dolls. So these cute little dolls. This was someone else's pattern. I was allowed to make them and sell them. Had sort of a miniature commercial license, and little dolly clothes and things like that. And it was something that if I had to stop and walk away from it, I could stop and walk away from it. Everything was fine. And I could, if I had a chunk of my day taken out to go to IEP meetings or therapies or whatever we needed to go to, well, I could catch that up in the evening. It was no big deal. Whereas if you're working in a shop or working in an office, you can't just walk away like that and then catch it up later. So I did a lot of handmade. I sold handmade. I've taught in shops, evening classes. So husband and I would just tag team. He would get home and I'd be out the door to teach a class in the evening, and then I'd go do grocery shopping after that and then come home, because we went through, I think, about 2-year period where I couldn't take my youngest out of the house for the meltdowns. So you kind of figure it out. I've been a Santa photographer. I've done markets. But teaching classes is my favorite, because it's all well and good to make something for somebody, but to teach them how to make it themselves makes my heart sing.
Look at that. That's gorgeous. Do you think everyone's got a talent for craft or creativity?
I do. I very strongly do. I had a friend who, when we were in our early 20s, she desperately wanted to paint, but she declared herself not very good at it. But she was a hairdresser, and to this day remains one of the most skilled hairstylists I have ever met. I used to have hair I could sit on. It was so long. And she once started it from here, put it in a braid, and went all the way down the back and up the side and connected up. So I had a waterfall of hair surrounded by braid. Now, what 19-year-old do you know who can do that before the
No.
internet? Yeah, so
Oh,
it's
wow.
everyone's
Yeah.
got this creativity. You just have to find your medium. It might not be painting, it might not be drawing, it might not be hairdressing. It could be working with clay or sculpture or floral arrangement. It's there. You just have to find it.
So do you, like when you're teaching, do you use a lot of video to be able, and I guess now because of coronavirus, that we have that social distancing, and if you're in Victoria, you basically can't leave at the moment, and in Queensland, don't come a knocking because we've closed the door. How vital is video to building that connection now with people for you?
I've always felt that video is important. I've been filming tutorial videos since I had an analog camera that saved onto a tape. I have been doing YouTube videos. Now I'm a bit obsessed with TikTok. Oh, TikTok is the whole new animal. Don't get me started. It's the greatest time waster, but it's also an excellent way to teach people really quick tips. And that's what I do. I just do little 1-minute craft hacks and things, and actually a professional in my industry picked up on one of my TikTok videos and used it in one of his YouTube videos, which kind of went ballistic. Kind of went power, which was really, really fun. But video it was important before coronavirus. It's how I connect with my customers, my retail business, and you can teach. So for me as a teacher, I was bitten by the video bug when I did a TV show, which was a while ago now. I think it
What
was.
TV show? Tell me. Would I have
It
watched
was
it?
called Scrap It TV. It was on Aurora on Foxtel and For Me on free to air TV. It was just a little bargain basement, individually, one man. He shot all the video, he did all the editing, he did all the marketing, he did everything. Tony was an amazing, he was just so good at the producer, director, the whole thing. And he happened to be filming kind of a big name in our industry at the store where I was teaching. And he said, oh, to the owner, do you have any others? Teachers who might be interested? I'd love to fill a few more segments. And I'm like, me. I'm like, I'm not shy. I don't get that stage fright. I've been on stage since I was a very little girl. So being in front of people, and especially being able to teach on a big scale like that, I just jumped at it. He liked the way I worked. He sought me out at a trade show and we filmed another segment, then got me back in the next season to do 3 more segments. And then I was taken on as host until the show ended at season 7. So it was the coolest job I've ever had. And that's what hooked me on video, because I realized teaching in the local shop, I can teach maybe 4, 5, 10, 15 people. But on TV, I could teach people all across the country. And on YouTube, I can teach people all across the world. So I chop and change what I do, but live video, I love doing live video because you can instantly connect and talk and interact and answer questions. And if they say, what would that look like in this color? I go, well, let's have a try. Let's roll
Let's
with it
give it
and
a
see what
crack.
happens. It's
Oh,
great
that's
fun.
so cool. So I know a lot of people who are terrified of video, and the thought of doing a live is like nerve-wracking. I was watching an interview with a guy this morning on Ticker TV, and he was asked a question and he looked at the camera and I could just see his brain just went, and he went, oh, I'm so sorry, I'm so nervous. Why do you think we're so afraid of video?
I think I'm not afraid of video because I've been performing since I was 4 years old. So I'm used to being on stage. I'm used to being up in front of people. I'm used to running things. I've run a sound deck. I podcast. Like I have no fear of it. Yes, I get butterflies, but I've been on stage my life. So people who have a fear of it, I can't personally identify with, but that doesn't mean I don't understand. It can be really scary. People aren't used to the way they look. You also see people online constantly criticizing people about how they look or how they sound. And no one loves the sound of their own voice, except perhaps for me, because I've been listening to it for a long time. And as you can probably tell, I love talking.
Yeah, I kind of picked that up.
Yeah, a little bit. So I've run a few workshops at Artful Business Conference, and I was booked to do a talk for Kate Toon, who is an SEO. She's the Beyonce of SEO. She's pretty cool. She runs a small networking event down up here on the Central Coast, sort of more down her end of the coast, and so she booked me to do one in April, and then COVID.
Stupid coronavirus.
But what I would have said to them, and what I would say to anyone else, is you have to just get comfortable talking into your phone or into your camera, and those videos never have to see the light of day. No one ever needs to see them. You film it, you delete it. If you did that every day for a month, as terrifying as it is, if you're not used to talking to something that's pre-recorded, don't even think about a live. It's not for the faint of heart. Anything can and will happen, and if you don't know how to roll with it, it's like anything. It takes practice. So I recommend to people, turn on your phone camera and set a timer for 15 seconds and say anything. Say, hi, my name is Dawn. I'm really scared of talking on the video, but look, I did it anyway. And then stop it. Keep that one.
What a
then
great
do it
tip.
again. Then do it again. Then do it again. Look at the one on day 30, compare it to the one on day 1, and you'll see a difference. It's becoming comfortable with it and knowing that people out there are much more interested in themselves than they are in you.
Absolutely. And I think it's like anything. I mean, if you think about if you know how to ride a bike, that it was particularly hard to start with. I know that I came off it many times with scraped knees and grazed hands and elbows before I finally got it. And now I can ride a bike without thinking. It's like that unconscious competence. So that's a really great tip, is just pick up your phone and practice. No one has to see it. I know when I listen back to my voice, I think, oh my God, who invited that Ocker Sheila along? And
I never really think of myself as having an Australian accent, but I went to America in January for a big craft trade show that I had been dreaming of going to for 20 years. And I have never in my life been so conscious of how Australian I sounded until I landed in America and was surrounded by American accents and could hear myself. I was determined not to say g'day but I heard myself saying, oh, no, she'll be right. And I'm like, oh, I sound so Australian.
Yeah, or no worries. And they're like, I'm worried. What are we worried about? Oh,
that's a very Australian thing as well. But that was awesome. I got to actually go to this big trade show, meet all the big craft celebrities. I've got a couple of them on my wall. Some pictures that I got at the
craft celebrities. Who's a craft celebrity? I want to know.
We got craft celebrities. There's everything happens in the craft world. It's awesome.
Oh, are you a celebrity? Am I talking to a celebrity?
I'm a very minor Australian celebrity.
You're a micro celebrity.
Because I've had the TV show, people in a very niche area of the crafting world in papercraft probably know who I am. But yeah, I'm not big time famous. I mean, I'm no Jennifer Maguire or Tim Holtz.
Oh, well, I don't know them, but I know you. So you've just elevated in my book in terms of craft celebrity. It's like, I interviewed Lewis today, don't you know? And people will go, who? She is a craft celeb. So
Totes.
The totes, I love that. So the crafty world is, I would say, 95%, maybe more, dominated by women.
Yeah.
What is it about women and craft, and why aren't more men doing it?
There is a hashtag on Instagram. I think it's dudes who craft, which is awesome. And we have some amazing dudes in the crafting world. Tim Holtz, Simon Hurley. There's quite a few guys now coming onto design teams who do amazing work. The reason why, though, is that crafting, crochet, knitting, tapestry, cross stitch, card making, stamping, it's seen as girly. There is a guy I follow on TikTok who is a heavy metal crocheter. Not even kidding. He live streams on Twitch and he crochets to heavy metal, and comments come up all the time. It's no different, the criticism that guys receive about doing craft than the criticism that women receive about being mechanics. But
It's a crazy
the women
world,
get that
isn't it?
from the men. The men get the dudes who do craft get that from the men. So it's men don't like women who do manly things, but they also don't like dudes who do girly things. But my dad did tapestry. He was great at it. And the guys who are in the crafting world, they do really cool work. So I love seeing more dudes and meeting more dudes who do craft. I love it.
So how do we make it a more inclusive industry? Like, besides slapping those men who are giving them a hard time, saying, pull your head in.
There's a few things. I mean, a lot of the crafting designs, so the designers, this is probably where it starts, and products are female centric. So what is there for guys to make that's kind of duty, things that they like, things that they like? I have a friend with a needlework business, and she has created kind of like a spooky graveyard scene embroidery kit. So it's sort of something more that boys would like to do rather than a flower or a butterfly, or, like, have some designs. When scrapbooking industry was queen in the early 2000s, you could find anything for girls, but trying to find things to do layouts for boys was really difficult. My nephew was born, and suddenly I became keenly aware. So I had girls, so I was like, yeah, I'm happy. But I was keenly aware creating an album for my nephew was really hard. There wasn't as much product. Women are the designers, they design for women. Plus, if there are dudes who are designing, there's an assumption that craft is for girls. So it can start at the designers doing some really cool designs for dudes. And it's happening. It's happening more and more, and it's awesome.
Yeah, good. So it should. Like, the sooner we can dispense with this, it's a girl thing or it's a boy thing, where it's like, if you like it, just do it. I think the sooner the better. It really holds the world back, doesn't it? When we, like, and I get, like, I write awards for people, and I work with a lot of women, and there's a lot of women in business awards, and I understand that women have kind of had a bit of a hard slog over the last, I don't know, millennial, and I can see why we need to have those things to lift them up. But I also equally see how important it is not to disclude men, because I think they're getting a really hard rap in the world, and they don't really know where they stand. So let's just go, dude, if you want to craft, I'm all for it.
Craft. I am here for it. I love it. Absolutely love it. So yeah, I love the heavy metal crochet dude. He makes really cool stuff.
Yeah, I like the sound of that. I wonder if he wants to come and make candles with me, because I make candles, and I could see a bit of head banging going on. Maybe not while you're holding the hot wax, but
maybe that would be a little dangerous, but who knows?
But while you're waiting for it to set, that's the word I was looking for. I'm like, going, what's the word? Then definitely you'll have to hook me up with him. So in terms of
what, that was a pun.
Yeah. Totally missed it.
Sorry.
No, that's okay. Like, I'm a bit slow today. That's okay. I can't be on every day. So in terms of what's next for you, you've done all of these amazing things. Where to next?
Well, I started during COVID doing a little bit of voiceover work because I've got my like Telstra on hold lady voice, or I do a fair facsimile of the train announcements that you get on City Rail. So I started doing a little voiceover work. I voiced over a story that a lady wrote. There's a Facebook group called The Kindness Pandemic, and this lady wrote a story for her little boy to explain all the changes because he was a bit scared, and her husband turned it into a PDF with all these cute illustrations that she did and made it available, and it was downloaded thousands of times. And I looked at it and went, that's great, but what about people who are hard of hearing? So I have some hearing impaired customers, so whenever I do a podcast, I do a full transcript so that they can read it, because I don't want them to be excluded. I mean, I have a little hearing impairment myself, but I messaged them and said, look, if you ever would like to have it voiced, I'd be happy to do that. And so we had a quick call. She's like, your voice is like velvet. And I'm like, it's yours for free. Like, please, I want to help your families. And there had been some comments saying, oh, my nephew is deaf, I can't read this, like he can't hear it. So, or he was blind, he couldn't read it. So for the vision impaired and for the hearing impaired, I created a video where I voiced it over, but there was also text and the illustrations, and that's on YouTube. It's had like, I don't know, 1.6 thousand hits or something like that. So I've done a podcast intro for Linda Reed Enover, and I'm about to do podcast intros and outros for Ashley Ray, who you chatted to yesterday.
I did indeed. Oh my goodness, you get around, girlfriend.
Well, Ashley and I met at an event last year, so I hang with some creative business peeps, and they're pretty cool. So I don't know, there's more voiceover work. I'm loving my retail business. I adore my customers. I have amazing customers, and can I just say, I have at least a dozen customers called Karen, and they are all sweethearts.
Look, I don't know if you saw our clearing in the name of Karen last week, where we interviewed 4 Karens. That was inspired by Rage Against the Machine, killing in the name of. And I went, we've got to clear in the name of. I'm asking them to use that. I haven't heard back from them yet. So yeah, Karens are pretty cool. Yeah,
my Karens are all awesome. So I'll probably stay in retail for a while, but I'm moving. I see myself moving in the future probably into more mentoring and coaching, putting together some courses and things like that. So it's teaching. Whatever I'm doing, it almost doesn't matter what the subject matter is. Teaching. I'm always teaching.
It always comes back to teaching. Well, thank you for sharing your wisdom and your beautiful teaching heart with us this afternoon, Dawn. It was fantastic to talk to you. You're a craft rock star in my eyes.
Well, thank you. I've had a blast. I love talking to people, and it's a nice break from my day where the only conversation I have is with the cat.
Yeah, you don't get much back. My dog's the same. No. It's like he looks at me and it's like, I love your adoration, but I need some feedback. So it's been awesome to talk to you as well.
You as well.
Thank you.